Welcome to Brawl, the podcast where art and MMA go hand in hand.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Brawl podcast. I am Dave here along with
Ben Morris.
It's been a couple of weeks, but we had a much-needed vacation. Just got some changing of seasons, winter stuff going on, doing a bunch of things, but we are back. Happy to be back. So we have a lot to catch up on. A lot of stuff happened. There's a lot of good fights, but there's also some other stuff we're talking about too.
Yeah.
We're going a little bit different direction today. We're going to talk about some, not necessarily movie reviews, but just some of our thoughts on some of the pop culture stuff that's come out.
Yeah.
Some of our art escapades, things we got going on there.
Absolutely.
And definitely want to touch on the BMF situation, touch on Askren a little bit if we can, if we have some time, and then
even talk about some stuff going on right now in UFC. Some quick, just like our quick thoughts on some current events.
This is probably not going to be an MMA dominated podcast today.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we're realizing now that of course, this is called Draw and Brawl. We've been focusing too much on MMA. I mean, I guess our first episodes were really just getting our feet wet, but now, of course, I feel like we want to delve into even just the art stuff.
Coming into our own a little bit, getting comfy.
Yeah, I mean, like, comparing to other podcasts I've heard, too, it's like, we want to just kind of go with the flow more often, not be too structured and scripted a little bit, even though I'm not saying we are, but,
No.
I want to just kind of, like, go with the flow, like, hey, let's talk about shoot the shit, and,
Well, it's tough. At the end of the day, it's because we have some pretty lofty goals for what we're doing, and we want to try to make sure we're doing things the right way, and we're diligent and we're putting in work, and we have topics we want to talk about. We have this and we have that, but at the end of the day, I think the thing that makes any podcast special is just connecting with someone and letting yourself kind of come across too. And that's what I know for me personally, the last podcast that we've done, I mean, they've sounded pretty good and we've got some good gear and this and that, but I haven't felt like myself. I'm just trying to know this fact or know this next thing, or it's just kind of flowing with it.
I want us to almost be like our phone calls, man, where we're just not. It's not always MMA centric,
That's right. We're not afraid to say fuck, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the weird shit that I do sometimes.
Right.
But,
yeah. Absolutely.
So, before we went live, we were kind of talking about Joker and obviously the new Joker movie. Fantastic performance by Joaquin.
Spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to be some spoiler-filled few minutes too. So if you haven't seen Joker, don't listen to this fuking podcast.
I'll put in the description where to skip to if you want to get to the MMA talk. I'll put a little time.
Make it real difficult. I'll just kind of refer back to it every 25 seconds after the fact, just so we have to cut all that shit out. Too.
Masvidal reminds me of this scene in the...
Masvidal reminds me of this scene in Joker where he snuffed his mom's life out with a pillow, just like he did Nate Diaz. Oh, shit. But no, so we were talking about just how the fact that, obviously, when that movie was released, for the first couple of weeks it was out, essentially it just kind of came down to everybody was afraid that a crazy white guy was going to take some guns and go shoot up a place. And reasonably so, because, it's something that happens pretty frequently now.
Let me ask you this. Didn't that happen when the It movie was coming out? Like, didn't people getting a little freaked out? Like, around, especially, I think, around Halloween, but, like, there was, like, just dudes dressing up as clowns and hiding in the woods, or just, like...
That was, I don't...
Was that happening around
that? Marketing. That's definitely something that I remember.
Yeah.
That it was just like some guy in a clown mask that was seen off the side of the road or something. It was like viral videos.
Right, but it started with one, and then it got like a little out of hand, and it started to be like high schoolers or middle schoolers doing it, and like...
a lot of copycat. Well, that's what they were afraid of with Joker, was copycat stuff. But the thing is with Joker is there was that shooting at the movie theater in Aurora, Colorado at the Dark Knight premiere.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was the Dark Knight. That was like the screening of that, or the showing of that movie. That's when that guy went. Wow. Just got an update. Ben Askren retires at 35 due to ongoing hip injuries from MMA.
Oh, wow. He was going on Ariel Helwani's show.
That's so crazy that we're doing this podcast right now. We just got that.
Okay,
so
this is
live here. Ben Askren retires from MMA.
Wow, it's so funny you say that, because when we were going to delve into Ben, I was going to say, well, hey.
What's next?
Well, I was going to say what's next, but also was going to mention the big point that he's on Ariel's show today, and it kind of just made me thought, like, all right, he was just on there after he lost, I think, to Damian Maia, and I was like, all right, it's either he's retiring or maybe he has a fight that he has lined up, but I doubted that more, so I was like, he must be retiring. He just did that, I'm sure, right on there.
Man, we'll come back to that later. But
that's
little Correct. Pretty crazy timing. But
Yeah.
no, so with Joker, it was, first off, I suffer from anxiety.
Okay.
And I have for a while. It was really something that kind of came into play in my life before my first kid was born. So, I see a therapist and things, and it's helped me tremendously. But the point being, 6 months ago, I've never been able to see the Joker movie by myself because I was hugely afraid. Oh my God! Like, what if I just flip out one day? What if I just go crazy? I'm just like, I'm just gonna snap. Like, it's the total. Anybody that has anxiety can 100% relate to that. Right. So the fact that I saw this movie by myself was something that I'm just like, I don't know, proud of myself that I could do it. But it was, it definitely was a movie that I think focuses on mental illness. But at the same token, like I said, we were talking about before, I didn't feel sympathy for him. I mean, I wasn't
right
to the point where it's like, oh man, I guess the point I'm trying to make is for a long time, I was like worried about one day I'm just going to snap. Something's going to happen. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to lose control. I'm not going to be able to, I'm just going to be totally nuts. I'm going to get put away. I'm going to be in a psych ward, all this other stuff. And it's essentially, this is a movie that I kind of follows that path a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel sympathy for the guy. I feel like it wasn't something that you just wake up one day and that's who you are. Like what my concerns were, dealing with a mental kind of stigma. But I feel like for him, he was kind of batshit from the get-go. You know what I mean? Like there was something off about him from day one.
And remember I was saying to you earlier that I had no expectations going in except what I just was told through the trailers. So I had to kind of make, my expectations, I guess. Like what I meant like by that is like I'd have these high grand ones where I'm like, this is what I'm going to see. I know, blah, blah, blah. But from what I was just getting snippets of, I was like, oh, I'm guessing the movie's going to be where we're going to see him like transform, from a normal guy to psychotic. But then it was like, oh, it's always been like that. And like I said later in the movie, you can see that it was from, childhood, from birth, really, when, his parents abusing him and whatnot. But yeah, I guess there was just some moments where I was like, oh, I feel a little bad and whatnot. But but then he would quickly turn it around and show his, how fucked up and messed up he was and whatnot. But
I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was kind of afraid to see that movie because I was worried I was gonna have like a panic attack seeing this movie.
Really?
Yeah, like an anxiety attack. And the closest I came, I was actually, it's one of those things where if you suffer from anxiety and you have panic attacks, sometimes like reality seems like it's, like it's almost like you've been unplugged from the Matrix and you can't get back in. That's how it feels sometimes.
No, I can understand what you're saying. I mean, that's kind of me. So these are what I call like these kind of movies are like psychological horrors, but this was more not even like too close to that. It was like more of like a thriller, suspenseful, but I don't know. It has elements of, that, but as in what I'm trying to say is as in like other horrors where it's like really like gruesome shit and like when it delves into like I don't know what you want to say like the fucking ghost shit and the jump scare like
supernatural kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. Like when it gets like to these really crazy ones, I just can't get him.
Me is the movie that the person like how do I say
when it's really real, when it's like
not even real. So much really real, but it's like okay, when it's a ghost movie, when it's Bigfoot, when it's like a Michael Myers kind of thing, like there's always a person in the movie who's the victim that's cut and dry, like a good person. They don't, they're not like an evil character. They're a good character. There's just some unrealistic kind of crazy person like committing the murders. To me, the scariest movie is when the guy thinks he's a good guy and then ends up becoming like a psychopath, fucking serial killer. Right. Because to me, that's like for my biggest fear as an anxious person is that there's something lying dormant within me that one day I'm just going to have a bad day and I'm just going to fucking snap. Like that was a legitimate fear of mine for a year, for years.
Right. And that's what I was kind of delving into is like I can relate to what you're saying, but more so, and it's not like when it's comparing to like these unreal like beings like the ghost shit. I guess
I was just afraid it was going to hit too close to home for what I was afraid of, and what like unrealistic fears that I have. It was going to hit too close to home, and it was going to trigger like a panic attack in me. Right. And the closest I came was right at the end when he shoots Robert De Niro's character in the head. And it was just like, oh my God. It was just super uncomfortable. I'm just like, no, it's just a movie. It's not real. Like everything's it's just this thing. And then it was like, okay, it was okay. But I was super proud of myself that I did it. I saw it by myself. It's a funny story how I actually saw the movie. So I'm a big Elvis fan. I have an Elvis tattoo. You've seen it. So my mom, the Fathom events that they do, they'll do like one showing, one night only, or two nights, something like that. So she got tickets to an Elvis special at the movie theater by our house. So we planned, it was like 2 months in advance she got tickets. So my mom is old school. She pays for things in cash. So she bought the tickets in cash. We went to the movie theater. We went to sit down. We had our tickets. We got everything done. Bam, good to go. We're in the theater. There's nobody else in the theater but us. And it's supposed to start at like 7 o'clock. So it's like 6:50, 6:55. It's like, okay, at least preview should have been on by now. And no other people are here. I mean, this was like sold out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell's going on? So because my mom paid cash, there was no credit card. Like when they do a credit card transaction, there's an email on file. So she paid cash, so there's no email. So nobody could reach out to her and let her know that the event had actually been canceled. So she went out to get someone. The guy came in. He's like, yeah, the movie's canceled. So we'll refund you, and you guys can pick whatever movie you want. You can see another movie. So they were like, oh, we're going to go see Judy. Do you wanted to see that Joker movie? Do you want to see Judy? I'm like, I don't really want to see Judy. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll go see the Joker movie by myself. It was just one of those things where it's like, I never would have willingly drove to the movie theater to see Joker by myself. Yeah. Right. So now it's a situation where it's like, fuck, like, this like you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, okay, this is fucking something I definitely didn't expect, and well, let's see how I do, So I went in pretty. I don't know if I really had any kind of preconceived notions or expectations. I mean, I really wasn't expecting too much. I just thought that I like Joaquin Phoenix a lot as an actor, so I was just kind of expecting it to be a good movie, whatever it was going to be, and it wasn't. To me, it's like. I don't know, I don't really watch like the super violent, like Rob Zombie movies anymore. Like I used to like them, but I don't really want to see just like violence porn. You know what I mean? That's
what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie wasn't even really that crazy violent. Like the violence, you could count the violence on one hand, but it was like Casino, where it's like the violence was intended to be that kind of punch in the gut, that uncomfortable that it was.
I like that about the movie, where it wasn't like this guy was just a crazy serial killer and just going, every person that looked at him different, he was just killing, like it was like all people he knew or
but even like the craziest thing, like I think one of the most tense scenes was when the guy that gave him the gun at the beginning of the movie that comes to basically see what he said to the cops, and he comes with the little person, Gary. I think his name's Gary, right?
Something like that.
Right. So he fucking stabs the guy in the neck with the scissors, and then Gary's like, can you get the door?
Yeah.
Can you get the chain? And it was so tense because you're like, oh my God, what is he going to do?
Yeah,
like,
I thought he was going to.
Always nice to me, Gary. And he lets him go. But he's like, oh, he jump scares him. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. Like when they came inside the first time and he was just, painting his hair or something, whatever the hell.
No shirt on. He's in like trousers with his face painted.
And he locks the top lock. I said, oh shit. Because I knew he wasn't going to reach
not
it.
Leaving this.
I was like, God damn it. But then I was like, I knew this. Okay, this is how I kind of like thought of the Joker. I was like, when I saw that moment, I was like, oh shit. And he kept like putting it in our face like, oh, they're probably gonna kill this little guy or something like that. But then another part of me was more so like, I feel like he's gonna let him go because just the way the people he's been kind of killing were like treating him differently or badly or whatever you want to say. So when I was like, I don't know if he's really going to do it, because then that would change the character for me, like moving on and forward in the movie. Totally. But like him just killing someone randomly like that, it's not really bothering him. So I was like, all right.
I definitely feel like, as far as if you're a fan of comics, if you're a fan of Batman, if you read Batman, if you're a fan of that world, I feel like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was as accurate a comic Joker. Like, to me, all the other Jokers, there was something kind of sexy about him. Like even Heath Ledger's Joker, like there's something sexy about that Joker where it's like, oh, look at this. Like he's really not like a batshit crazy person.
What is it? The Prince of
Crime or something?
Yeah. Like it just has that like,
there's
like
something sexy about it.
Snazzy,
it's like, not sexy as in the fact that it's sexualized. Sexy as in the fact that it's almost like,
I mean, in some ways, yes, from like certain fans, they like
but
that.
My
like,
point is the fact that Phoenix's Joker was like certifiable batshit crazy. Like there was no method to what this guy did. He strictly acted on impulse at all times. And to me, that's what the Joker always was. Like, that's what made the Joker scary, is the fact that he had no friends. He had no alliances. I mean, it's like, Harley Quinn obviously is one thing, but he fucking slapped the shit out of her, beat the shit out of her at moments. No, like, there's the Brian Azzarello, Lee Bermejo Joker book. Like, he's got this guy that's essentially his right hand for years and years and years, like his most loyal guy, and he like rapes his fucking girlfriend, in a car, like right in front of him. Like, he's fucking nuts. He's batshit crazy.
But I feel like this Joker could be the same, because I feel like when people start to idolize him and like, like how Harley is and everyone else like look at him as a sex figure too, is when he essentially it's him forming that cult, and at the end of the movie you see like people just praising him, all the
yeah, I could definitely see how he could get henchmen.
Yeah, but like, also just like a group of fans that think of him as to die for. I mean, that's with actual serial killers in real life, though. Like,
I think the thing is with, like, if you look at all the other Jokers and you say to yourself, we're not talking about being in a room with Jack Nicholson. We're talking about being in a room with Jack Napier, like that character. I could see myself being in a room with the Heath Ledger Joker, with the Jack Nicholson Joker, with Jesus Christ, I can't think of his fucking name. Jared Leto, with that Joker, and being like, if I stay quiet in this room and don't draw any attention to myself, I can get out of here. You know what I mean? But I feel like if I'm in the fucking room with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, like, there's nothing that I'm going to do to trigger this guy. If he just decides to fucking kill me, he's going to kill me. He was just scary to me. Like,
I don't know about that, because I feel like for some reason I feel like
he was.
You would have to really rub him the wrong way. I mean, maybe I got to really think about how he was throughout the movie again.
Just even like I can just imagine that Joker looking at me and being like, "Wow, like I'm."
Because
fucked.
you know
like,
how
he was super scary.
He just wanted to make people like him and laugh and this and that. Like he was just trying to make.
Cared about that, honestly.
Well, he was trying to make the
kid
laugh and the bus ride, this and that, and the girl to like him or whatever the hell. But I mean, like, when people started to just laugh at him or pick on him, that's when he snapped. But I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, you're right. I feel like.
Well, I don't even know if snap's the right thing. Like, I kind of feel like it was more along the lines of he finally embraced what he'd always wanted to do. Like, I felt like he always
Okay, so you're right. I think after a while, it was like he didn't want to give anybody...
He stopped he stopped stopping almost himself.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't give anybody the time and day to see if this guy would even like him. He was just like, I know nobody likes me, and everyone's... my life's miserable, I'm unhappy, then he's just going to...
I don't even think he thought about it. That's the thing. Well, that's the thing I think is the scariest part, is it's like, I don't think that there was any thought process really at all. It just was acting straight on impulse. I don't know. I think he's what I think is the best, like, cinematic interpretation of that character. And people obviously will disagree with me. I mean, I grew up with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I mean, that was the kind of the bar. But I think Phoenix might be, in my opinion, I think the best. But there's two things I want to say. Number one, I was not expecting... All right, first off, huge spoiler alert here. I was not expecting them to introduce the Bruce Wayne angle as far as the killing of the parents there.
Yeah.
Totally did not see that coming.
I didn't expect it to happen in the movie, even when they introduced Bruce and all the Waynes.
That's what I'm saying.
But I mean,
totally
like...
unexpected. But I fucking loved how they did it.
But
it was like...
then I knew it was happening right when they passed the fucking theater and it said Zorro.
Yes,
and I said... But I kind of was like there was a little sigh out of me. I was like, I'm watching with my cousin. This is like his third viewing. I dragged him into seeing it. I mean, not dragged in the way. He said, sure. "Oh, I'd love to see it again," but I was like, I offered him to buy him the tickets. I was like, why would you want to? He didn't really want to pay, to see it three times out of his own money. It's like, oh, I can cover you, whatever.
Right.
But because I really wanted to see it that bad. But I turned to him when I see the Zorro thing. I'm like, are they really doing this right now? Like, I was like, oh wow, and they did it. I was like, all right. I mean, I'm not mad at it.
Coming,
I'm not mad at it, but when I saw the Zorro thing, at first when I saw the Zorro thing, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
that's I really liked it because it makes sense though. Like, it wasn't forced,
right?
It was a very natural kind of progression,
right?
But here's the thing though, right? Man, I'll tell you, I don't see Batman being able to exist in that Joker world, like I feel like it was just, I don't know, the fucking, just the sheer craziness of that. Like, how, I don't know, to me it almost kind of like makes a guy in a suit kind of ridiculous, like I feel like it was real enough that it almost makes
it was too real. Like, this movie,
that's what I'm saying. Like, can you imagine a guy in a suit trying to fucking run after? Like, I just can't. I don't know. I hope that they don't
because the Joker that we think of fighting Batman is this guy full of tricks and like stuff like that. But with this Joker, it was just like, it was like if like literally if this was real life, how would the Joker would happen? Like that's how it happened. Like it was just super real, and then this Joker is just locked up. He's not finding a way to get out. No one's trying to break him out. Like that's just how that went. But if it's like if we're talking about
world, I don't see a way that Batman can exist in the same world.
It's so this world is so more realistic than one with what Batman would be in. You know, I see your point there. But I mean, part of me did when I saw that happen. I was like, maybe this would be interesting to have this Joker, you know, play along with Batman. But you know, I can see your point where it's just he doesn't seem like the guy that, I don't know, that could transform into the Joker we've read about and stuff.
I feel like with Batman. First and foremost, like, I feel like the actuality of what would happen was this guy would find a way to kill tons of people. You know, he would be, it would be a situation that is like unlike anything you'd see in a Batman movie because Batman always saves the day. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's, I don't know, any kind of situation with a bomb or you know when Heath Ledger goes to the party and he's looking for Harvey Dent, but Batman saves all. Like I see a situation where like fucking Joaquin Phoenix just starts blowing people away, just like murking people.
I mean, see, I could see him in a Batman movie. Like that'd be pretty cool. But as for right now, like because he's so good as the Joker, I would love to actually see more of him. But if we are gonna see more of him, I wouldn't actually mind just his own standalone movie again, like a sequel, and then like his cult like breaking him out or something, or some higher self breaking him out of the asylum or whatever where he's held. I mean, there's a lot of theories about the movie that the whole time he's been in the asylum and he's just thinking all this in his head. That's the other
crazy thing too.
But I mean, there's a lot of things to think about because they were really playing with your mind in that movie, and like you were seeing it through his eyes, so everything is kind of like not real or real, whatever. But
what's kind of cool too is things are open to interpretation. Right, like they don't have to tell you what happens.
But if there was like as I was saying, like if there was like a second movie, I would kind of like to see him just like him versus the world, pretty much, like him having to let him just going on these terrorizations, whatever, and then like the cops trying to stop him, but never introducing someone like a Batman, you know, like, or a vigilante. Like I love the idea, just like him going around like where it's super real, where it's like, oh, there's a serial killer,
sure,
you know, like.
I mean, I guess like I guess the only thing I could maybe think of that could work was, have you seen the Watchmen movie?
No, I actually not have seen the Watchmen movie. I know we were talking about it earlier, but I think I've saw. Well, actually, let me take that back. I actually think I've either seen the full movie or at least half of it, but it was so long ago.
It's a pretty fucking intense movie. Like, there's definitely it's definitely some stuff where it's like super violent at points, but it's never like a horror movie. It's like, you know, Dr. Manhattan just explodes someone and fucking blood and guts just go everywhere. So I mean, I guess I could see, you know, that might make sense in a world where a Batman joke like that Joker and a Batman could kind of exist, like if they did a similar type of movie to that. But I don't know. I mean, are they ever going to do a rated R Batman movie? Because that's what they'd really have to do.
Well, are they not doing that with the Matt Reeves thing or whatever his name is, Matt Hughes?
I don't think so.
I almost said Matt Hughes.
I just kind of feel like they'll, you know, the merchandise and the licensing for a Batman movie, if they do it to rated R, there's going to be no toys, you know, no merchandise, things like that. So,
I mean, does that movie really need toys? I don't need that.
No, but when you're a studio spending hundreds of millions of dollars on something, you want to try to recoup as much money as you can. That's what's nuts about this movie is the budget was like 55 to 70 million. It's done over $1 billion.
Wow.
Definitely did not expect that from this movie.
Yeah, but it feels like such a, how I describe this movie is like, feels like it's such a chill movie. Like it just, you just kind of like get engulfed in the movie. You just get brought in, like you're into that world. It's not like you're watching it from the outside more so. Like I really felt like
I didn't have to think see him as anybody else. Sure.
Say again?
Like you don't think of him as anybody else other than that character too.
Right. I don't know. It's just like you just kind of go along for the ride with the movie, and I love how it does that. I like when a movie does it, and it's almost like
it's all about the performance. I think his performance is what does everything.
Right.
Because the other thing you got to remember too is he's in pretty much every scene in that movie. Like there's no scenes in that movie that transpire that he's not a part of.
Right, exactly. That's why I was saying
something that they usually do in movies.
All right, that's why I felt like this movie felt like we were just seeing it in the perspective as his eyes. But then we had to kind of see everything else too, so that's why it wasn't really first person. But
it was cool. It didn't try to be too smart. Some movies try to be kind of too
like
too
it wasn't
smart, so
too
you lose
over
things at the end.
Right, like
the plot point wasn't lost on someone because it's trying to be too. You know what I mean?
Like I could relate the theorizations to like a movie like Inception or something, but it wasn't too over the like the top, I guess, with Inception, where you had to there was so many things you had to think about. Like
it's not like Interstellar where you're trying to figure like what the fuck, how is this kind of different dimension? Like I don't understand.
But I want to mention something right here that's not really talking about the movie as like what's going on, but I want to talk about, since we're artists, the artistic angles and whatnot throughout the movie. How the things were shot and whatnot. Like I started to notice that a little bit. I would actually really want to see it a second time just to look at the the type of shots they did in this movie. But like I remember one that stuck out to me. I'm sure if I go online right now and go on YouTube, there's gonna be like the best shots, or I go on some article page and they're gonna show me all the ones. I'm like, oh, that was a good one. Like, but there was one I remember when he was like the usher at the theater or whatnot, and
right before he confronts his father.
No, it was while he was in the theater just laughing at what was going on, like Charlie Chaplin, whatever the hell it was. He's in this dark room, but he sticks out like the sore thumb because he's so pale, and the way he was like right in the middle of the frame or something, if I remember correctly. But there was just this look about him. It was kind of like how Heath Ledger was when he dressed up as like that cop in Dark Knight a little bit. Like you could see the look of him a little bit, and he was recognizable out of the group. But this was more so where they was just like the composition they pulled off right there. It's like his pale skin really made him stick out, like the white on black.
Sure.
And then, but also that made me, when I saw his face, it's just like, oh, that's the Joker. Like, you have a whole crowd. Like, say it was like a packed crowd, and I have to look for him. I can find him immediately. He just has that recognizable face, but also that like the pale look of him, and he wasn't even wearing makeup. He just has that like that look about him where he just they just did that so well.
It's cool when like a movie that something like that things aren't done by accident.
Right.
Everything's done on purpose.
Right.
Every shot's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's so many iconic shots in that movie. Just the whole staircase shot, where at the end, and I mean, it's the same staircase that he's walked up and down like 6 times begrudgingly, and then at the end, he's like kind of just taking his time. I mean, there's a lot of really good shots there, but I feel like the roles, the actors were fantastic. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy because I like Joaquin Phoenix. He's one of my favorite actors. So I've seen pretty much everything he's done. And at no point in this movie was I like, oh yeah, he was the same guy that did Gladiator, or he was the same guy that did Her. Like I didn't think about him as any other character other than the character I was seeing. It was a really good movie. It's one of those movies that you're kind of, maybe some people might kind of be like, man, I don't know if I want to admit how much I like this movie, because you don't want people to think like you're crazy or something. But that's the thing about cinema. It's a story. It's fiction. It's art.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie might really do a lot of things too, as far as like the Academy goes. It might be, Heath Ledger's pretty much the only actor in a comic book movie to win any kind of award. He won supporting actor like posthumously after Dark Knight. So there's a lot of people saying that Joaquin Phoenix might be nominated for an Oscar here.
Just alone. I mean, I was talking about like, okay, we were describing the movie, describing the artistic, stuff going on there. But as him as a whole, like, let's talk about him as an actor, like you were just mentioning now.
Like unparalleled.
Like, wow, like amazingly done. Like I'm pretty blown away how he's just shaped himself into this character and made it his own, but like so recognizable in a sense. Like,
Totally.
It was like, oh, that's the Joker, but also it was like your own Joker. It was like, but it was just everything worked out perfectly, and he made you believe it all and everything, and
it was a really good character study, I feel like.
Yes, yeah, like he took it to a different level, but I don't know, I just I was really blown from that.
Well, the thing I like too is when because everybody kind of like, that's the whole sexuality, the whole sexual thing that I'm talking about. Like they make everything sexy, where it's like, oh, Heath Ledger had a journal and he had to get into such a dark place to play this character. And, they were like, Joaquin, did you? He's like, no, I was really not in a dark place at all. Like, I didn't have to essentially live in a room with rats and send my co-stars to use condoms like Jared Leto did doing Suicide Squad. Like I was just
well, Jared Leto, I think I don't know too much about him. I mean, I've followed a little bit of him from the past, but I mean, like he just kind of felt like a little like trying to be with the trends, like, oh, I gotta top Heath, or I gotta match what Heath was doing, or something, like, or just be like out of this world, like a method actor or whatever, like act crazy on the set.
To his defense, we don't really know, because he said there's a lot more footage shot than was actually made it into the cut.
Exactly. There was some. I remember there was a moment in the trailer that wasn't in there in the movie. But back to Heath. There was a lot of. I think a lot of stuff about Heath got like blown out of proportion. Like they made it seem like this guy was crazy or something. But I mean, from what I remember, like hearing some from actual like actors that were in the movie with him and friends and family, they were like, it wasn't as what people were saying. And I don't know what certain things
from
were
what I read,
rumored.
he locked himself in like a hotel room for like an extended amount of time and
Yeah.
just journaled as the Joker.
There was the journal.
But I mean, everybody does their own kind of thing. It was just nice to know that you could do such an iconic portrayal of a crazy person and not have to go
but
crazy.
I think I think it was about the whole thing being rumored that the role killed him, but it wasn't that. It was just like,
well, the role definitely that's the sexualizing of like the sexiness of it. Like, oh, so but
then I think that got
from
blown
what I
out of
read, like he
proportion.
started getting into sleeping pills and stuff because of the schedules or whatever it was. But he
Right.
was filming another movie when he died.
Right, exactly.
So
So
it wasn't like he was filming that movie. Like,
but
he
I
was
think
already,
the role, yeah, and then everyone was like, "Well, how was he crazy on the set?" Like I was like, "No, he was
Right.
just
No, he
acting
was-
normal. He
yeah.
wasn't acting like the Joker on set or something when the cameras were off." Like, so people just take it to that level, and so
Well, I think people like nowadays, especially too, there's a glorification of those kind of bad, like crazy, like, oh, Heath Ledger. Like, how many fucking 15 to 25-year-old girls are like, oh, Heath Ledger was such a good Joker because it's like he's so sexy. It's like these are the same people that love The Crow, and it's, I don't know, it's like that kind of pseudo goth, like emotional kind of, oh, I don't know. To me, it's just kind of making something sexy that it doesn't need to be. And there was nothing sexy about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. It was just super gritty.
right.
And I don't know, it just made me uncomfortable at times. And
Yeah, there was the comfortable moments I remember was like he didn't know if he was gonna flip. Like you just knew from the beginning of the movie he was on edge, and he was on edge and whatnot. And we're
we're
gonna
just reconnecting our
yeah.
our video here.
Whoops.
It's all right.
That's what I was going blank for a second. So like throughout the movie we knew he was like he was fucked up, and more and more he got fucked up. But I mean,
But
like,
that's the thing too.
You
But
didn't know
at
what
no
he was going
point-
to do at any
Sure.
point.
But at no point were you like, oh, he's a perfectly normal guy.
Right, exactly.
No, never.
But that's a good kind of segue to interrupt the whole FaceTime thing. Now we can kind of get into some MMA stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just look up some of these past events, but of course the big one we want to talk about is
Well, yeah. So
244.
first and foremost, I mean, it's like, I don't know. So I've read that there was a controversial stoppage, and this doctor was this, and this was that, and I don't know. At the end of the day, it's kind of like some people are like, well, Masvidal was just destroying him in those first couple rounds, anyways. And then my thing is like, well, Nate, I feel like always gets destroyed in the first couple of rounds. Like that's
Right.
That's
Well,
kind of Nate's
before
MO.
we delve into that, because I don't want to miss these ones, because once we get into that fight, then we're gonna go on for a long time. But I want to touch up just a little bit of the last fight on the prelim card to the whole some of the main card. But Corey Anderson versus Johnny Walker. Can we just talk about that one real quick?
Yeah, man.
Like, okay, I knew that this was. I thought this was a dangerous fight, but for both of these guys, actually,
We're
I felt
definitely
like
being on the Walker hype train. 100%. We're definitely guilty about
yeah.
riding on the Walker hype train.
I mean, I was on the hype train of him, but when I found out he was fighting Corey, like the first time I was like, oh damn, like that might be a bad fight for Corey. But then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, things of it thought of me like some things that put in my head were like, Walker with the injury of the shoulder. I was like, maybe
just
that
freak weird things.
So, but it wasn't. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, Corey's been dominant in this. I wasn't even thinking about the shoulder anymore. I was like, well, Corey's a dominant fighter in that division. He has a lot of experience. Went through a lot of guys and this and that. So then before the fight started, I was like that day, I was like, I think this could be a dangerous fight for Walker too now, the more I thought about it. And, the wrestling aspect, and if it, went past the first round, I know Johnny was going to want to take it slow anyway. He said, I want to prove myself. I want to show you 2 rounds of me instead of getting it done early. And,
right.
I just thought that might have been bad for Walker. But whatever Walker's game plan is or not, Corey came out there and just shocked everybody, not even thinking about doing any, wrestling or taking him down and controlling whatever. He just went out there like guns blazing, and that was amazing. Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, because part of me, of course, like, this is with any fight, but anyone has a chance, and I thought, damn, Walker could come in there and clip him in the first. But I mean, once that fight starts, I can really start to feel it out more. And man, he came out, and I was like, oh, this is not looking good. And sure enough, I mean, you didn't have much time to think it's not looking good because it went by quick. But I mean,
it was a performance of the night bonus. It was just one of those things where it was just like, man, of course this is the way this goes down. It's
well, this is MMA for you, like,
yep.
It's just, I love that. And this is why I was like, damn, like, this is so good for a guy like Corey, because he was just getting no light on him. This is like the whole Rousey and Nunes thing, like the guy that's been in this fight game, and has more experience, is not getting the love and respect, and then goes out there and starches the fighter in the first round. Sure. So it's like that type of thing. And now, he's getting a little more vocal, and, he wants that title shot next. But I think there's some, a guy, I feel like Dominic Reyes is more in line next. But I feel like Corey, after showing that, like, he's showing that he can put on more exciting performances, and he's not the one to be slept on. So I feel like, one more good last fight for him. I think he gets right into the title picture. And some guys that have been sitting on the bench, like Anthony Smith or something like that, would be a good, matchup next to get like a, title shot, So
I definitely, like, the one thing that kind of reminded me, just going up to the Johnny Walker thing, was the Luke Rockhold Jan fight, whereas nobody fucking gave Jan a time of day whatsoever.
Right.
Everybody, because
that's
Luke
a good
was
point.
Talking about fighting this guy, he was already talking about this guy, and we were sitting there saying, man, don't sleep on Jan. And then next thing you know, it's like the same kind of outcome.
Because that's what they were doing with Johnny. They were like, oh, after you beat Corey, you're going to have Jones next. I think they were pretty much hyping that really up. It felt like
who the fuck else is going to be there? Like, nobody else is going to be able to beat John. It was kind of like one of those things where we hope he's the chosen one.
Right. Well, they were doing, like, I mean, even Luke Rockhold, when he was coming into the division, even with Weidman, both of those guys, relating what you were saying with the John thing, and too, but it was like, Jan, not John, but, they were saying like, Jones is next. I'm the guy to beat him. And that was kind of like the headlines throughout the whole lead up to their fights. And, it was what the media was asking them about, what they were preaching in the media. And then the other fighter was like, hey, I'm just focused on beating this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, you guys are not paying attention to me. That was what Corey and John was saying. And then, they proved themselves, that they're, the best, or what I'm saying, they're, the most tested in that division. They've gone through it all. They've gone through a lot of people, but I want to say this about Johnny Walker. Like, now people are off the hype train. I'm sure a lot of people are, but I'm still on it, as in, well, I'm not like, oh, this guy's the best. Or I'm not like, I feel like hype train. That phrase
humility,
gets,
sometimes that little taste of humility is good for a fighter.
But I'm saying that hype train phrase gets a lot of like, I don't like saying it. Yeah. So what I'm saying
is,
not
a hype train. I mean, the guy was fucking knocking people out. He was winning fights. It's not like,
what I want to say is, like, I like him as a fighter because I've seen his, like, how he's training, fun. And I feel like I know he's a probably much more well-rounded fighter than he can, and he's gonna prove it and prove more and show it, more in these next outings. So, and I love the respect after. On social media, Corey and Johnny being like, hey, I'm probably going to see you again. I know you can come back from this, but like Corey, he just more on pursuit of getting that gold, and and he wasn't letting anybody stand in his way. So it's like a 2-person fight, but this is good for someone like Johnny to like come back from that and learn from it. But I'm not like denouncing Johnny. I know that it's like that Francis Ngannou thing, a little bit like that, where it's just like. He came in there with a more experienced fighter in the division, but this time, Walker gets knocked out, but he doesn't get, like tossed around like he did with Stipe. But now you see him come back strong from that. So, Johnny Walker, I feel like just because that happened in that fight, and I feel like a lot of light heavyweights are not going to still want to accept that fight.
Yeah,
so,
he's a dangerous fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. 244 was a pretty crazy card. I think, honestly, had one of the worst KOs I've ever seen in my life.
Or are we going to go right back into, are we going to delve right into Lee and Gillespie?
Yes.
Oh, my
That's exactly
God.
what I'm talking about. I honestly thought for like a second and a half that Gillespie was dead.
Oh, my God.
When he hit the cage, I really thought he was dead. I'm like, oh, my God.
This is
I've
another
just seen
fight.
Someone kill someone in an MMA fucking cage.
I've seen
it. It's finally happened. Someone got killed.
This is such a crazy one because I really starting to like Kevin Lee more now. Like, so it was on the Tony Ferguson, like his fight with Tony Ferguson around that time. I was just like, oh, this guy's team douchey or something like that. But the more and more fights I saw of him and the media stuff, like he just got this little bit more humbleness to him and I started to catch on to him a little bit more and actually liked him a little bit. And then after his loss to RDA, like, he really became more humble and honest, and that's when he just tried to just change things up. He really had to go and get a head coach and this and that, and then he was looking all over, hitting places up. I think it was also the podcast with JR on JRE, Joe Rogan, I mean. He really came out and said, hey, I was looking at all these places. I think the last stop I'm going to do is in TriStar with Faraz, training with GSP. And I was like, that has to be the right place for him. And he was even saying, like, I had to sit down with Faraz after my fight or something like that. And he was telling me all the stuff that was, going wrong in my game and what I could fix. And Faraz is able to really break down fighters and he trains and be like, this is what you're doing wrong. And the reason why Lee, we've seen this little letdown to him lately, I feel, is because of what his coach had, I believe, he committed suicide. And that really, hurt him, mentally, but also that was taking away someone that, was able to help him and guide him and teach him so much.
Look forward to, looked up to and listened to.
Exactly. So that I feel like that was a big thing that not a lot of people were paying attention to and listening to. And when you see someone like act so cocky and stuff like this, with Lee, I think it was just kind of him hiding his feelings. And I'm sure he was. I believe he was cocky and stuff like that while he had the coach. But like, he's young and this stuff like that happens to him. It's just it can fuck you up a lot and mentally. And we're talking about the Joker and like this is stuff. And like your anxiety and this and that, it's like all this mental stuff. Why we like doing this podcast is like, hey, we're talking about these. I mean, these guys are fighters; they have feelings too, and
it's humanizing a little bit.
Yeah. So, but when I heard that he was going to TriStar, I was like, this is amazing. Like and George Pierre said this very well. Like, he was saying, Kevin Lee doesn't realize how good he is, like that he can become champ. And I think this is what that step he needed. He needed to have good people behind him to help him, because I feel that Lee can become champ. He just has to get through these mental barriers. But when I was so excited for this fight, because I was like, well, it was still that same nervousness a little bit where I knew, like with Corey Anderson Walker, like I knew Corey can get it done, but just that little nervousness against someone that's like undefeated and it's in Gillespie, like undefeated, this dominant guy. No one wants to fight. The same thing with Johnny Walker, pretty much. So it was like, oh God, this is scary. Like, no one wants this fight. And then Lee's like shows the balls on him. Like, yeah, I'm gonna take it. And
that caught him so good.
But yeah, Gregor was even Lee admitted it. He's like, yeah, I know this is scary and dangerous and challenging because this guy's a much better wrestler than I am. But he would have probably wrestled with him anyway. But I mean,
Lee's still a Division II like wrestler. I mean, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a scrub.
Yeah, but Lee said, I'm gonna outbox his ass. I really need to rewatch the fight because the only thing that kind of sticks out in my memory was that KO. But I knew he was doing great on the feet. But yeah, he just really showed like he was a different fighter, and he set up that kick so perfectly. But yeah, let's of course get to the damn KO. God damn, that was amazing.
Just the way he hit the K. I mean, that was probably the scariest knockout. I feel like the scariest knockout I've ever seen was the Bisping, the first Henderson Bisping knockout. Right. Because not only does he knock him out, but he lands a fucking don't skip over Nagano and Overeem. That was There's a lot of them. Overeem was a fucking literally like a Mortal Kombat finish him uppercut. But
here's the thing.
But that's I don't know.
Whenever there's a new KO, it's almost like your memory gets wiped out of a lot of the recent KO or the past KOs from years ago. Like you just like,
dude, just like the Gillespie was literally an open-eyed.
Oh my god!
Like I literally thought he was dead. I honest to God thought that Kevin Lee killed him.
Oh my god!
With that kick.
Oh, I'm not even thinking about the Askren KO. Jesus, like there's so many.
Well, that was
that was another one that was like
KO,
that was like another one. We're like, oh my god, he looks deceased. But geez, yeah, it's. I was at the Buffalo Wild Wings when that happened, and it was. Oh my God, I think brutal. I don't know if the bar exploded, but I
literally arms by the sides, just like.
I remember just jumping out of my seat though. I just jumped the fuck out. I was like, oh my god,
KO. That was scary.
But I was still happy for Lee, though. I mean, Gillespie's a great fighter, and I knew, what was I gonna say? He he was avoided. I knew he was a really high prospect and stuff. But Lee really proved himself in that one. I'm excited to see what's next for him. I want to talk about. See, this is kind of like the card of the the underdogs, almost like with Thompson coming off some bad losses, in that KO.
Yeah. He looked great. God
damn, did he look great. I loved that fight so much.
Yeah.
That deserved fight of the night. And, I truly feel so. But, I mean, Thompson showed, like, some of the old of what we remembered of him, but also, like, there was, like, a little bit of new, a dash of new in there, I felt. Or, he almost reinvented himself, like, really starting to bring the fight, but still playing it smart. And against, like, a killer like Vincent Luque, I mean, damn, tough as nails. I felt like
the guy just came off a win off Mike Perry too. I mean, it's not like he was first off, he's on a fucking 6-fight win streak,
right?
That was a really good fight. That was one of those things that could have been. We could have very easily been sitting there talking about Wonder Boy, like just didn't go his way. I mean, look at Weidman. Look at why could have been another Weidman situation where it's like, it just didn't go his way.
Well, I think we were thinking after that knockout. For a lot of people were thinking with the Pettis knockout, it's like, man, is Thompson going on this downhill? But part of you thought that a little bit, but or part of some people, I guess. But when he comes in there and I don't know, the way Thompson is, he's just such a positive figure that he's not going to let something like that, change him. Like, and he even said, I think some interviews was like, with the whole KO thing, he's like, no, I was in the gym the next day. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, because that was the first time he's ever been knocked out. He's like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It was pretty nice. I don't know.
It's just crazy too, because I mean, you look at who he's fought just from everybody from Whitaker. He knocked out Whitaker. Johnny Hendricks, McDonald, Woodley, Masvidal, Till, Pettis. Like, he's fought everybody.
But I think even though it was like. This Luque was like in the top 10, almost top 15, and it was top 10, so I think he was 11, and maybe Thompson was 6. I don't know. I forget the rankings, but that was a big kind of step down. Where it's like, you don't want to lose to someone like this, and that was the whole thing with like the whole thing with what was it? What's his name? Dan Hooker and Iaquinta was like that big step, like to fight Iaquinta, to fight someone that's that down in the rankings like that. So that's something with Thompson where he kind of taking the risks in such a killer like Luque. Mm-hmm. But I mean, then Thompson really showed that, hey, I'm still a viable contender. Like, don't forget about me, and I've been in this division for so long. I'm a veteran. Like, don't sleep on me.
He looked good doing it too. It wasn't one of those things where he was getting beat for a whole fight and then ended up, I think, hit a counter or something like that and won.
The first
round, he wasn't dominated.
Right.
He might have lost a round or two. But
I think the first round was like a little bit like just feeling it out, and I was like a little nervous around that time because like Luque looked.
He keeps his hands so low.
Right.
And Luke hated that, but the reason I get why he does it, because it's harder to see where the stuff's coming from. Like, you can't see it until it's right.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
Luque was definitely the strongest in that first round, but I mean, then Thompson really just turned it on, figured it out. But I just loved seeing that. Like, it was still Thompson. It wasn't like him trying to be somebody different, but but he still almost
did his thing. He didn't feel like he had to change too much that he didn't recognize who this guy was anymore.
But there was still a reinvention where he was like he was pushing it more, being more aggressive. But like, people get this idea that if you want to be more aggressive, like you're just not being methodical and smart about it. Like, like you're just going for broke. But this is the same thing with Israel Adesanya. He knows when to put the pressure on you, but still be smart offensively. I mean, and defensively.
Being aggressive too is a lot of it is making your opponent do what you want them to do.
Exactly.
It's not always attack. You know, it's
right.
It's doing something that's going to make them do something that they normally wouldn't do, doing something in your favor versus to their favor.
Right. So, yeah.
It was a great fight.
Yeah,
it was
an
absolutely great fight, and it's good to see him back. And it's nice. It's one of those things where it's like he looked good doing it. You know, I just feel like he's gonna continue to do.
I think that was his first win in since like I don't know if it was over. No, it was almost 2 years ago. I think what was against.
Masvidal.
Yeah, in that same date or same.
Yeah, the 17th. Right,
or November
2017, November 2017.
Yeah, and it was in November.
2 years.
Yeah, exactly to the day, pretty much. But I want to transition now to get into the middleweight co-main fight with Darren Till and Kevin Gastelum.
Yeah.
That was interesting because like I said, this is like this another like nervous, dangerous fight where you're like, what's gonna happen? Like. Is this guy going to get knocked out? But I mean, and I'm kind of referring to Darren Till more as, you know, I thought it could have not looked good. But, you know, the interviews I was listening to right when the fight got announced and, you know, on the lead up to this. And, you know, I was just like, he just seemed like he was changing things out. Like with the T Wood fight and the Masvidal fight, there was just some mental barrier in his mind too. And it was all about when he was like undefeated, but then becoming champ, like his mind being on certain things. But now he's kind of like, now that he's got some losses under his belt, he's like, fuck it. And I can't do I'm not going to try and do his little Scouse impression, but he's just kind of like, fuck it. You know, he's not going to worry about, he just like, if I'm going to go out there and lose, I don't give a shit. You know, I'm going to go out on my shield and sword, whatever the hell. And, you know, I'm, you know, if I lose, I lose. That was the better man. But, you know, I'm going to fucking bring it. You know, if they're going to take me out, they're going to take me out. So this is a new Darren Till that's now I feel really dangerous. But he's going to be, I feel like he's going to be like Israel Adesanya or like a Thompson as well, where they're dangerous. You know, they're going to play it, but they're going to still play it smart and, you know, not be too reckless. But I don't know, like, there's just something different about Till now that, you know, he's showing his game styles and fighting in his game that he's shown in the past in his other fights. But there's just something different where, you know, he's more mature now, I feel, after, you know, taking these losses and whatnot. But let's talk about
sometimes a loss, like, you know, we were just talking about before with Johnny Walker. Mm-hmm. A loss is the only thing that can kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit and give you some kind of humility and make you kind of recharge a little bit and game plan it a little bit differently to how you're going to do the next thing.
Right.
But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people kind of get too caught up in wins and losses.
Right.
It's not like, I don't know. Obviously a record is important, you know, when a guy's 13-0 or 14-0. I mean, it's something that's scary, but at the same token, like, look at Askren. Askren was 19 or it was 17-18-0 or something when he fought Robbie Lawler, and it was, you know, it's sometimes records can be a little, they can muddy the waters a little bit.
But this is why I feel like the main event with Masvidal and Diaz, I won't go too deep in them right now because I still want to talk about the co-main a little bit. But with them, it's like I feel like when you get like that, because Masvidal was, you know, 13 losses in, and then Diaz was like 11 losses going in. But it's like when you have that many losses, it's like it doesn't matter anymore. It's just like, hey, you're fighting like whatever.
You look at the trajectory. Like, is this fighter growing? Like, here's a perfect example, right? Look at Thompson. Wonder Boy had a couple losses, had some hard losses to Pettis. I mean, he had that loss to Woodley too, and it's one of those things. It's like, okay, what's his trajectory? Is he going down or is it what? And then he comes back and fights Luque, and okay, great. Now his trajectory's back up. Now we'll take the other example. Let's look at Weidman. Weidman was undefeated. Beat everybody. Beat fucking Vitor, TRT Vitor even. You know, he beat Spider. He beat a lot of different people. Look at his trajectory now. Every loss that he's had, he's lost, 5 or 6 of his last 7? Of his last 6? And they're all knockouts. His trajectory is definitely like, it's like he's, you know, the record, it's not as strong as...
Right. When you see a lot of these fighters starting off with losses, it's more learn than lose, you know.
I think it's more like, it's a lot of it's performance. Like someone like, you know, Damian Maia can take a loss, but it's, you know, he's not going to necessarily start a downward trajectory.
And I feel like Damian Maia, the only losses he's taken is to the best of the best.
Sure.
He's always, when he's coming out there fighting, you know, these other guys, you know, when it's not like a Tyron Woodley or something like that.
Nobody's knocking him out either, you know.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think he got knocked out once in his early fight.
Marquardt or something.
Something like in the UFC.
100 years ago. But,
yeah, but that's another thing. It's just
Woodley,
like
Covington, and Usman literally 3 fights in a row.
That he's
was
lost.
A decision every one of them.
Yeah.
You know, but it's, I don't know.
But yeah, what I want to say is, you know, Darren Till, you know, really came out there smart and nullified Gastelum's striking and made Calvin, you know, unable to do shit, dude. I mean, it was amazing, you know. And I feel like not a lot of people.
Gastelum's such a scary fighter too. Like to make him look kind of pedestrian is definitely something that I feel like you don't see a lot of.
And I'm sure a lot of people didn't respect that. The casuals, cough, cough, but you know, that they wouldn't respect what they just saw right there. But that was, you know, really methodical from Darren Till. And, you know, I feel like he needed a, you know, even if it wasn't like, it was a safe win, if you want to call it, but it was just, you know, he needed something like that to get him into that division.
It's a win. You know, it's not like it's a split decision. Like, the fighters have no fucking control over that stuff.
No.
You know, they fight their hearts out. They fight.
But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, Darren could have went in there and reckless, but you know, he wanted to show that he was a way better fighter than Gastelum, and show that he couldn't do anything to him. But if Darren Till decided to just want to bring the fight, he knew that someone like Gastelum would catch him. So it was really smart on his part, and I'm excited to see how he's going to stir things up in this division. You know, sure. This is a little. This is something for Gastelum, though, you know. It's kind of, I don't know where this kind of puts him, you know. People are even saying, like, oh, you can, it's almost like, you know, he lost, but he could still fight someone like a Robert Whittaker, even though I feel like they're trying to match up Whittaker until now. But there's so many, like, fights to make in the middleweight division, especially Costa's out. Israel might have to just sit out for a little while unless Yoel is going to step up. But this division is kind of like, you know, that fight I felt like could have held more weight if one of the fighters got like a KO, you know, that would have been like skyrocketed them to the title shot. Like that would have impressed the champ more. But you know, I feel like Gastelum should learn from this too. This is good for him. But you know, it was much better for Till to win this fight. You know, to cement him in the division. And I'm glad he didn't get KO'd and it would have been bad for Kelvin or something like that. Like, I like both of these guys. I know this is bad for me to say, but it's like, I don't want to see these guys get knocked out, you know?
I know.
Like,
it wouldn't be that fun if every fight ended in a draw, though.
You know?
Exactly. People hate it when one fight ends in a draw.
Or decisions.
Sure.
But another fight that ended in a result that we might have not expected, Masvidal and Diaz.
Yeah, it was definitely a fight I talked about it all the time, how excited I was for that fight. And obviously I'm a little disappointed in how it ended. But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know, we talked about it. I'm not sure if we talked about it, you know, live here as much as we talked about it on the phone or whatever. But I definitely felt like I wanted Diaz to win, but I felt like Masvidal was going to take the fight. It's because I feel like Masvidal's kind of on that trajectory. Like, he's going up. Like, I see titles in his future and not necessarily ones that the UFC just kind of makes up for an event. But it's a fucking good fight. I mean, Diaz, a lot of people, you know, some people were like, oh, well, he was getting his ass kicked the first 2 rounds. It wasn't anything, blah, blah, blah. But, like, when has Diaz really kind of not got his ass kicked in the first couple of rounds of a fight? I mean, every fight, I feel like I've seen him, he's getting knocked down in the first 2 rounds, comes on stronger. Championship rounds, you know, that's what he really, I think, kind of does best.
Right.
But,
yeah,
I guess the fight kind of went exactly how you would expect it to go. So 2 hardcore dudes. And,
yeah, I could sense it in that third that, you know, Diaz was, you know, elevating more, and I felt like those fourth and fifth rounds would have been different, you know, maybe. But I'm not going to.
Maybe Masvidal would have got a decision as opposed to a stoppage or something like that.
Possibly. I mean, let me say it like this: is, you know, I don't want to question the gas tank of Masvidal at all, so I'm not going to mention anything about like, oh, he was tiring out. You know, he's fucking putting it on him. He's, you know, he can, you know, when he sits down on the stool for 60 minutes, he gets that little rest. You know, because
I think people
they're fighting. So
Nate Diaz is a smart fighter. Like, people don't realize how effective Nate is.
But what I'm saying is like, of course he looks tired. He's fucking fighting, but doesn't mean he's internally tired. Like, it looks like on the outside, but you know, he gets those rest periods. Like I was saying, like that helps. You know, but it's like people just have to question the fuck out of these fighters. Like,
It's like the fucking Monday morning quarterback kind of thing. That's all it is.
But what I'm alluding to now is, it would have been interesting how the rest of this fight would have played out, and but I felt like Masvidal still had a lot in him, and so is Diaz. But it sucks when a fight has to end like that, and especially a big fight like this. Yeah.
Well, Nate was definitely saying he wanted to go. He's like, I'm fine. Let's go.
But I'm glad. I'm looking back at it now. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the stoppage. I felt like that would have been definitely something Masvidal exploited, and that would have just led to. It would just been another. I don't know. It just would have just. Okay, I'll just say it this way. It could have been really bad for Diaz. I mean, as in just permanent damage. But I don't know. It was almost like also a bullet dodge for Diaz in a sense too, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And then he could have came off a really devastating loss. Like, it's good that he then can go and get some of this plastic surgery or whatnot and get that healed up. And there's something I think I think it was that Nick Diaz interview with Ariel Helwani. I don't know if I've heard it from there, but he was saying, or maybe it was something Diaz was saying. I don't fucking know. I mean, Nate was saying, but there's like this doctor somewhere that they can go where they can heal it right up or whatever, or patch it right up, and then it won't someone punches it again and won't open up like that again. So
I know he was saying in the post fight, he's like, you sneeze on me and I bleed, and it's true because you open like that scar tissue, it gets opened up.
But that one was definitely bad, where it's like Masvidal wouldn't have let that slide. But so it's kind of good that we need this in fights, and just because this is the BMF fight, the title fight, doesn't mean the rules are out the door, and still like something like that could have led to something very bad, don't you think? So we're looking after fighters' safety here, right?
Sure. No, I mean, I'm not unhappy with the fact that it stopped before somebody got hurt, but it's kind of like you have to look at fights in a couple different ways. Like, as a fan, you want to see 5 rounds. You want to see a knockout, or you want to see it go the distance. It's like you want to, maybe you're just never happy with what you get. But I mean, we are also a podcast, and we're just fans of people that are like, we're not trying to shit on people either. So I mean, we don't want to see someone get hurt. We don't want to just kind of have to deal with that either. But
well, this is I was gonna say, I think Masvidal would be okay with that too, like at stopping like that. I know he wasn't okay like winning like that, but I feel like he would have wanted to win where your face, there's nothing to blame. Like, oh, I have this scar tissue issue that happened in the last fight I had, where it opened up because of that fight, and that's what happened. Like, I think since this fight got booked so quickly after the Pettis fight, then that just opened up quickly again. And
just look at both McGregor fights.
Diaz said that opened up in camp.
He's always been like that.
Yeah, but Diaz said that it opened up in camp and whatnot, so that's what really, why it opened up so easy like that too. But what I'm saying is, like, I feel like Masvidal, like, I would love a rematch. So there isn't like, because I think Masvidal was saying this in other reviews, like, I don't want to win a fight just because, this guy slipped on a banana, and because he slipped on the banana, I won. Like, like he wants it to be decisively. And even Nate was saying stuff like that before the fight. He was like, when I'm training with somebody, and they're gonna roll or something. He said something like that. He's like, I want them to be at their best. So it's like, I'll let them get their water and rest or whatever the fuck. And when they're 100%, that's when I want to, roll with them to show that, I'm the best. And even like Diaz is saying, like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to have to do all your little prep work before to get ready. But like, we're kind of alluding to is just saying, like, if I want to, show who's the best, we got to be top peak, no excuses, no injuries, And Jorge said I was coming in with injuries. I mean, right now, what fighter is not coming in the fights with injuries? And
everybody's
you see that,
fucked up.
You're sustaining that and during camp.
It's the nature of what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're not going to hit and get hit and not be 100% really at any time.
Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know where I'm going to go with that, but it's
I mean, at the end of the day, it was one of those fights that I feel like was kind of a little disappointing in the fact that maybe in some ways it didn't live up to expectations just because of
it did with those 3 rounds. It was like,
the
it was
3 rounds,
exciting.
yes, but just the fact, like, if I were to sit here and tell you, hey man, as much as we talked about how excited we are for this fight, it's going to end in the 3rd round on a doctor stoppage, you'd be like, oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, because I was excited at the idea of 5 rounds because I knew these guys could live throughout the 3 rounds. Like I knew they could take it longer, but it was just that we knew Nate was healthy and he had the cardio and was able to just go right after that third, but it was just that cut that stopped it. It wasn't
one of those
him,
things,
so.
man. It's just the nature of the game, MMA. It is what it is.
But I mean, I'll say this. Now we can just talk about the fight more, not the stoppage now. But I mean, Jorge put it on him. I mean,
he did.
Because Diaz was saying it. This other thing that I don't really hold too much on it is he was like, I wasn't able to do. I said something about an injury, so he wasn't able to do much cardio in the camp. So he was like, I was gonna take those first 3 rounds off and then put it on him in the 4th and 5th. But I'm like, really? Yeah, I don't think you do that. Like,
that's I don't know. See, I kind of disagree because I feel like I've always seen him do that.
But I
Even
mean,
the Pettis fight. When we were texting back and forth.
But he's saying, but no,
like,
he's bringing up this one instance. This one instance. This has only happened where he's like, oh, I was gonna do this because my cardio wasn't going too great in camp, and I wanted to just take it easy. Like that just kind of felt like more of an excuse than anything. But I knew, besides that, I knew that a 4th and 5th round would look different because Diaz has insane cardio. Mm-hmm. But it was just like I think if Diaz is a little, he's not wanting to admit it, but from just my outsider look, and I'm just saying this is a 2-person fight. Masvidal. I think that it's like what was it? Isn't that a Mike Tyson quote where it's like you don't
my back is broken.
No, your game.
It's final.
Your game plan goes out the door once you get punched. Everybody has a
plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Exactly. So I felt like that was kind of like that instance where like Diaz, once he got hit, it was like, oh shit, like, and then just Jorge really just put it on him too much where he couldn't find room to do much. I mean, Diaz had some moments.
There's something to be said about the stoppage too, because I don't know if you watch boxing, but the Tyson Fury last fight that he had.
Right.
His eye got cut open.
Well, I think if this was different states, if this was in Las Vegas, that fight probably would have stopped going on.
But dude, he was fighting, and like first thing he said was, "I want to give all the credit to my cut men because basically they kept him in this fight because he was opened up from the first couple of rounds on, maybe even the first round, fucking maybe 2nd or 3rd round, nasty cut over his eye, and he was and he still won that fight. Talk about defensive fighting, but it is what it is. It's one of those things that." We always talk about it all the time. We don't get hyped up to the fights until they're there. And, it was kind of when the fight almost like we weren't really sure it was going to happen because Diaz tested for this or that. It's like, oh, here we fucking go. And then for all that to come and then ends with a stoppage. I mean, we got, I don't know, we got 3 rounds out of it. It was good. It was
still great. And and like I said, Diaz still had his moments where it made it still a, good fight. But it was definitely dominated by Jorge Moore and it was decisively his win. But, I think it would have been interesting to see it play out more. And what's your thoughts on a rematch, though? I mean, I don't want. I don't think.
I'm all for it.
I am too, but I don't want it right.
I don't want. Fuck not.
I don't want it right away, though. I feel like we all know that.
At this point, I feel like it would be a step back for Masvidal.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel a rematch.
Exactly, and I feel like the UFC was kind of pushing Jorge more, even though this was created by Diaz. This belt, this picture, all this was created by him, and he was becoming more of a needle mover per Dana White's mouth. But with Jorge Masvidal, there was more eyes on him, the excitement from him, the buzz. This was better. Like I said before, I think we talked on one of the podcasts or just privately. It was like this is a bigger fight. This would mean more to Jorge.
Sure.
In the UFC to get this win because then he would elevate even more and it's better for the sport. What I'm trying to say. So,
I mean that's the thing because Diaz might not fight again for 2 or 3 years, whereas Masvidal is going to fight probably in 6 months. Whenever he's cleared for if he's got a medical suspension, I'm not sure if he's going to have one from that fight. But.
Yeah, I know he really wanted to say. I think he was like, I want to take a break because he was taking this fight with Diaz way sooner than he wanted to. After
he fought 3 times this year. I mean,
he was just a lot for him.
I mean, you think about the fact that he fought. I mean, he beat Joel, he beat Askren, he beat Nate this year. I mean, that's a pretty good year. Might be worth it to take account.
But I feel like he did. I feel like
they're definitely trying to push the shit with him and Colby
too. But what I want to say is, I feel Jorge deserves a lot now that he's become a star. Like he's been overlooked his whole career, pretty much in the UFC, except the diehard fans. But now he's really getting the attention he deserves. He deserves the next big fights. But I feel like, maybe him and Diaz will meet again, but I don't want it right away. And I don't think he really needs it right away. He's like,
no.
I want to see what happens with this belt picture, and he's saying before the fight this happened, he was like, I want all the belts, like give me all the belts, so he's all for it. So I think he said to himself like maybe 3 or 4 more years left for Jorge. So he's like, this is all I have a short window of time left, so I want to have the most fucking exciting fights, and like he's saying, I want to fucking bring it now. Like I've been the split decision king for too long. Like I wanna fucking bring the violence now. So he's
bringing it.
Yeah, exactly. So
he's definitely bringing the violence.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's next for him too. And we'll next podcast we'll talk about UFC 245, but because that's a good title picture talking about the welterweight division. But before we go, a former UFC welterweight now, I guess, with Ben Askren, I want to touch up on him. Now it says abruptly retiring from the UFC, needs hip replacement surgery.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things that
he had been becoming more of your guy.
I fucking still like Ben Askren.
Yeah, he's
that guy
guy.
Could get fucking literally knocked out cold, like a cartoon, like a Roadrunner cartoon, but handle like a champ. Like Ben Askren won me over when he got knee fucked by Masvidal, and then the first thing he says was on Twitter, well, that sucked.
Yeah.
Like that won me over. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm fucking Team Askren from now on. I like this dude. I mean, talked a lot of shit, but I feel like that dude was so fucking no bullshit about any of the losses. Like he was real. Like I really feel like what you saw in there was who he is. I like that. I liked him a lot. I respect him a lot. The guy got in there with everybody. I mean, it's not like he fucking cherry-picked opponents for the first 17, 18 fights that he had, and but there's a reason that this is the UFC and there's other organizations. I mean, of course it's not going to be the same fucking level of competition.
I'll say this, I feel like Ben Askren would have been way more successful when he wanted to come into the UFC. It was way, long ago when he was just killing it and won and Bellator and this and that. Like those were the times when you should have let him in, and then he kind of just came in post-retirement. He was kind of like already feeling done. And I mean, it wasn't like he was, here's the thing. It wasn't like he was terrible. It wasn't like he was terrible coming into the UFC. He
still fucking had a win over Lawler, and I don't care what anybody says. I feel like Lawler was out. To this day, I still feel like that bulldog choke. Like
I'll say this:
that it's not the movement of a conscious person.
He came in against a killer like Robbie, Jorge, and a fucking crazy killer like Damian Maia.
Don't forget,
like
the first fucking 13 seconds of his UFC career was spent getting absolutely macerated by fucking Robbie Lawler too.
Right.
And he took all that shit and fucking still finished that fight.
Exactly.
Like I can fucking take a shot. Like I think the Masvidal thing was kind of a 1 in a million, just a fluke kind of a thing that he got hit with. Like,
right.
I mean, but that Maia, I mean,
I don't know about fluke, but.
No, I don't want to say fluke in the sense that it was something that, first off, Masvidal drilled it, so it was definitely done on purpose, but I just feel like 9 out of 10 times... It could happen
to a lot of people, yeah.
Right. It wouldn't have just happened to Askren. Like, anybody could have got fucking hit with that.
Yeah.
But I feel like people...
Out, yeah.
I definitely feel like people look at Askren like he's not that good just because of...
Right.
The thing that happened with Lawler and then the thing that happened with Masvidal.
I just think he's going against such killers and stuff, and it's so crazy because it's I mean, if you want to relate it to a goddamn video game, it's like there's going to play a part when you're fucking playing Mario and you want to jump to this next platform and you fucking don't make it and you fall.
Dude, like, it's like and then you hit fucking any of the EA games.
But no, you hit replay and then you fucking make the jump. Well, this is the same thing with like his last fight with Askren and Maia. Like he went for the jump. That was a
fight they should have booked from the beginning.
But yeah, he went for the jump and then got caught. Like he missed it, and then again got choked out. So, but I felt like Askren
went for it, you missed. You got choked out. Oh, okay, that's gonna be good. You got choked out.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like I feel like Askren still could have won that fight, but it's just like there was that mistake he made. He got a little too cocky. Like I said, you're playing a video game. You're like, oh, you're feeling the flow. You're getting cocky, and then, I
don't say get cocky. I think you get overconfident.
There you go. So
at the end of the day, MMA is better off with someone like Ben Askren involved in it.
Well, I'll say this: it was a great entertaining period. I mean, I felt like
I'm gonna miss these.
Yeah,
this little blip on the clock of MMA. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, it was fun when he came in. He stirred stuff up, and without him, there wouldn't be where I don't feel like Jorge would be where he is right now.
The Masvidal hype train wouldn't have picked up as much speed as it did.
Like it was a great. I mean, I don't know if people are questioning the whole trade with him and Demetrius, but that was a great trade still. Whatever, don't question that. Like, you know, it elevated a lot of these other people coming and becoming stars and, you know, stuff like that. So, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the UFC likes this guy still, you know, maybe
I'd like to see him stick around, maybe announce, kind of
maybe he'll do that type of stuff.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, he'll be at he'll be on the desk. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that'd be a little weird, but I don't know.
Listen, Ben, if you're listening, whatever you decide to do, I support you, buddy. Whatever you do, I'll fucking tune in.
Right. But you know, like
curly-headed fuck.
I want to see this interview with him and
I love it.
I want to see his interview with Ariel because I really want to go in more. I want to hear more about if it's just the hip replacement surgery or if he's just kind of thinking about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we could read about that. We can talk about more of that later. But did you want to do, you know, just a quick round of stuff of just current UFC stuff that's been happening, or do you?
I got to peace out right now because I got to drop the kid off at dance class. So
yeah,
the fun stuff.
But hey, at least we were able to mention what we had to, and
the
also
real life dad stuff.
Yeah, right. No problem.
Well, next time, I mean, we'll be back soon. You know, we had a nice little break, but we'll be back real soon. We got some other stuff to talk about too, some comic stuff that we're doing, you know, some art stuff, some things going on in the art world for both of us that I'm pretty excited about. I know you're excited about too.
Yeah, I wanted to do like our next pods that really, like we were just mentioning in the beginning here. I really wanted this. It's the reason why we're called the Drawn Brawl podcast. But like the past episodes were us getting our feet wet, but we still were kind of not. We weren't even trying to talk about other things besides MMA. So now we're kind of being more aware. Like, hey, after that kind of like layoff we had for a while, we were able to just reassess some things and be like, hey, just do it. Let's just. I mean, I feel like we're not. I don't want to force this pod too much. I just want to go with the flow.
Man,
of it.
At the end of the day,
let
like
things
podcasting,
happen.
this is definitely one of my favorite things to do. I really look forward to this. At times when it gets too MMA heavy, it's a lot of work because I mean there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
I felt like I was I mean here's the thing with this podcast. You know, this is almost like something I would just have a conversation with you, but let the whole world hear it or whoever's going to hear it right now. But I'm just saying, you know, I was getting into the mindset where like we were almost like we were like a news. We were reporting
like analytics.
This.
Sure.
Like we were reporting this because we were making a page. We were trying to grow it and trying to get eyes. Like here's our thoughts. But like now I'm just kind of being like, and I do want to promote it to a sense where I'm going to be pushing it. And
well, you know what it is. We're like at the end of the day, we are serious fans. I mean, we do pride ourselves on having knowledge of what we're try to have knowledge of what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, I'm a goofy fucking dude, man. Right. I'm a goofy dude. I'm not just a number reciter. You know, right. I'm a quirky, goofy fuck. I'm a curly-haired, goofy fuck. Just like maybe that's why I like Ben Askren so much. But we want to get into a lot of stuff too. I mean, I'm a comic artist. You're a comic artist. Exactly. You like the fucking Kubert School. I mean, I've been in the Kubert School as the 34-year-old guy going to their open house like a weirdo. But there's a lot of other things that we enjoy, and podcasting is something that I'm super into. And anything that we can do to be more at ease and feel more like ourselves and bring more of our own personality into this is what we're going to try.
Exactly. To do. So that's what I'm saying. Like with this pod, like I'm right now, I just want to kind of go with the flow with it, and later down the line when we start to pick it up more, and I feel like then I'll start to really promote it. I'm going to still post these on YouTube, but there's going to become a point where then I'm really putting it on Apple Podcasts. I'm going to be clipping it. Then there's going to be times when we're going to actually maybe do like face recordings, and it's going to be on YouTube, and like, with certain podcasts where you see us behind a desk, whatever. So, I mean, like, I'm just taking it slow. Like I was kind of like getting to, in the beginning, I felt like I had to like really put a lot into it. And even when I was trying to put a lot into it, I wasn't even keeping up with it. It was just a lot to handle with our other busy lives and stuff. And so right now I just feel like we're just going to have fun with it. Like, that's why I feel like
that's what we're doing, man. That's what we started. That's what kind of set the idea off in the first hand. Was like, oh, you know what? We should fucking do something because it's fun.
Yeah. So right now,
but I got a question for you. Ready? Who's your favorite X-Man?
Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, I've kind of fell out of like into the comic stuff, but I mean, growing up,
don't worry about the comics.
It was always probably Wolverine growing up.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I
by
know.
Far.
But I feel like if I read more X-Men, then I'd be like, oh, this guy's my new favorite now. Probably.
I'm a fucking big Nightcrawler fan too, and I like Beast a lot too. But Wolverine's my
jam. But if I had to like go that, it almost sounds. I know it sounds generic sometimes, but it's like, yeah, I enjoyed him a lot.
You know what I love?
Oh yeah,
fucking 80s Wolverine.
He's wearing
too.
the shirt, guys.
With the brown and yellow.
Oh yeah, that was a great suit.
But just give a quick shout out to Cherish Heath. She's an artist. Look at this.
Oh,
you guys can't see this, but Ben can.
Bring it up a little more. Oh, back up. Okay, nice. I can see it now.
Cherish Heath. She's a fucking incredible artist. She did this for me. She got a couple pieces, but this is one of my favorites.
Well, yeah, what I was going to say real quick to recap it again, I was trying to like get into that was like, so you can, here's what I want to say. A lot of like MMA fans are also just like love comics too and love art and also love the movies and pop culture stuff. So I feel like that might set us a little bit different from these other podcasts because I felt like we were trying to be
comic pop culture MMA podcasts are there.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we have to seek some more. But
not too many.
but the whole thing was like in the beginning, you and I were trying to be different with our podcast, but we weren't really showing anything different, you know. So I felt like now it's like, well, our name says it, you know, why aren't we expressing it? So now I feel like this podcast is really going to change things from here on out where we're going to be like, hey, we're going to talk about our lives. Then you guys get to know us more, you know, and if that's something you guys want to know. But if you don't, skip through it and listen to the MMA shit and bounce out. But,
or don't listen. I mean, whatever you guys want to do, you have a plenty, you know, we super appreciate it.
We just want to have fun.
To us,
yeah, exactly.
We're going to have fun. We're doing it our way.
And I feel like this is how we'll connect with more of you guys too, you know. That's what the whole personal thing is, you know. So we'll see where that takes us. But
fucking
yeah, man.
Well, we are Draw and Brawl, and we really appreciate you guys listening. And
Absolutely.
We can't wait to come back next week live and do another episode.
Oh yeah. All right. Draw and Brawl on, guys.
Fuck yeah.